My friend, Dr. Pat, I want to thank you for your kind words. And I'm so happy to be here because I really feel like this is home. My sister's here, my brother is coming. I saw one of my ping pong players that I play with, brother Matthew is also here. And as I came into the parking lot, I saw a beautiful bus, and the name on it was Health by Design. And Sister Dorothy Richards was a dear friend for many years. She was a patient, but a good friend. And I know what her desire was for all of us to be in great health as we prepare to see our Lord and Savior. I want you to know this evening that this presentation has had an impact upon me. And I completely decided that I would not come here being a hypocrite, so I didn't come with any black hair. Okay? I said, I'm going to come as I am, and you all will accept me as I am. I am so thankful to the Lord for his mercies unto me that was able to turn 70 years old this past November. That's 70 for those, 70 for those who can do the math. Okay. And he's just been so overwhelmingly good to me. This is a very sensitive, touchy subject, but because we're among family, I think we can talk in that kind of a way. As was already alluded to, this fine lady, so that was Madam C.J. Walker that was referenced just a minute ago. And she was one of the first Black American millionaires. And she developed a system, a Walker system is what she called it. And it was a shampoo, press, and curl method that used the heated iron comb. And it really took off, and she did quite well. We're going to come back to that heated iron comb because maybe that was a better option for women, maybe, versus some of the other things that we're going to talk about tonight. But as you all know, in the quest for beauty, many women of color and marginalized communities, they have had to rely on skin lighteners, chemical hair relaxers, and straighteners. And by the way, I had no idea that Jamaica and Nigeria were two places that they can't keep enough skin lighteners in their stores. Okay? There has been so much to be said about light skin, dark skin, that it has really affected us. And so we believe that these skin lighteners have some problems as well, which we may touch on to later on. But the research is now more clearly stating that there's a category of chemicals known as endocrine disrupting chemicals. And I'm just going to abbreviate that as EDCs. But these are ingredients in a lot of the products that we use that can interfere with your hormones. And you know, some of your hormones are very important. For example, you know you have a thyroid gland here, so that you have thyroid hormones. The women have estrogen, that's a hormone. The men have testosterone, that's a hormone. And there's a long list of these hormones that are very delicate, they're very sensitive, they're very intricate. So anything that could interfere with your hormones could potentially be a problem for any of us. Well, many of these chemicals interfere with our reproductive system. And I would count the breast as part of the reproductive system because after a woman has a baby, this is what she's going to use to feed her baby. We know that the ovaries are also part of the reproductive system as well as the uterus. So what we're saying here is that certain chemicals can attack some very sensitive parts of a woman. Absolutely. And not that men would be left out. We're going to find out maybe that it's affecting men too. You know, it was just in the news yesterday They're saying that the Time magazine, this is the front cover of a Time magazine. The date is February the 24th. That means it's a current issue right now. They are saying that young people under the age of 50 are dying of cancer and they don't have a good explanation as to why. Okay? This is sort of bad news. Most of us older ones, we may have gotten away with a little something here. Okay, we're still alive, but our children and our grandchildren may be bearing some heavy burden from a lot of the environmental exposures that they're dealing with. But I want you to know, some of you may ask me, "Oh, well, you're not practicing medicine anymore." No, I am involved with public health, and I just wanted to share something about public health, and that I will ask you a question. Who makes sure that your water is safe when you turn on that faucet? Who is checking up on the air, the quality of the air that you and I are breathing? Who is checking up on the soil to know that the soil has not been contaminated or ruined when you're planting your food or you're getting produce? How do you know that the soil is clean and not full of poisons? When there is a flu, there's a bird flu concern. I wouldn't call it an epidemic just yet, but it's an issue. The COVID-19 was a pandemic. And so these are the kinds of issues that public health would look into. And this is why this is important, because somebody has to look out for you and for me. And so we're happy about public health and what public health is able to offer to us. Now, I have been concerned about the health of our women. And as I have been practicing medicine, as I have been studying public health, I'm realizing that many of our Black women have not enjoyed the best health possible. And according to the slide that I'm showing you, a lot of our women have diagnosed or undiagnosed high blood pressure, the breast cancer, diabetes, stroke, lupus, just to name a few. And we're also seeing that the healthcare system is not always fair to Black and white. Studies have shown that we may not get the best care. And so you almost have to be smarter than your doctor. When you go in that office, you have to know what questions that you need to ask. And you need to, unfortunately or fortunately, we have to become smarter than the doctor on certain issues, because he may not bring up certain things. But there is also on here, what I want you to take note of is the Black Women's Health Study. And in short, much research has been done, but not on Black women. Okay, historically, Black and white, Black men and women may have been left out of certain research. So sometimes it makes some sense to take a look at research studies, because you may be a benefactor of it. They may pay for all your medical care and so on and so forth. But don't neglect that. Now, all of us, including myself, have for years believed in the value of, you might say, natural medicine. And this is the most natural instruction that we have received from the Bible, that nutrition is very important. We're so happy that we have a top-notch dietitian and nutritionist in the person of Dr. Pat Smith as a resource. But we know that we need as much fruits and vegetables and whole grains and nuts and seeds as possible. And even for us Caribbean people and others who know better, we still consume too much animal products, not realizing that even fish, if fish is not caught in clean waters, what do you think you're getting? The earth is so polluted now. There's so many microplastics inside the oceans that not even a piece of curry goat may possibly be safe. Yeah, you say, oh, but you don't understand, Doc. I like to add curry to my food. But not even the curry goat may necessarily be safe, because there are too many additives. So we have been blessed to know from Ellen G. White that we needed to avoid animal products, because that's also a source of where hormones come in from. exercise is still valuable. I hope that each and every one of you is finding time to take a walk, to do some jumping, to do some kind of exercise, because that movement. And you know, when I was sitting here, I was watching you all do Father Abraham. You missed. This is my brother Richard and his family, his wife. You missed the Father Abraham, and you should see these Adventist people dancing up in here. They were moving their legs, and you know that's what I do miss about dancing. That you're missing some exercise. So why not come to church and dance, you know, and enjoy yourself and get some blood flow, even if you have to get it here. Water, we know, is critically important. You got to have a water filter somewhere, because you should not trust tap water. And there's a lot of choices that you have where water is concerned. Since we're talking about water, we should probably not be using any plastic bottles anymore. It should be glass, it should be ceramic, or it should be aluminum. But the plastics, especially once they sit in the car, they sit in the sun, it leaches the plastic, and those plastics are very hazardous to our health. So even your water, drink your water, but prepare it appropriately. We know the sunlight is good. The temperance means one piece of cake, not 3 pieces of cake. Okay? All right. Breathing has become such a critical thing. I'm going down this list, and we're on air. But when we learn how to breathe, you know, as I look at most of you right here, right now, it looks like a little bit at first like you're dead, because I don't see any movement. I don't see any breathing. But whenever you get a chance to be amongst some clean air on the outside, I hope you're taking some deep breaths. And thinking a little bit further, it may be well to have an air filter in your house someplace as well, because sometimes the pollution in your house may be worse than outdoors. Okay? Keep a window open. The rest, what a blessing that we get to rest, not just physically, but we get a chance to rest a little bit mentally today. Okay, we can hardly keep that man out of our minds, but at least today we can kind of put him to the side. Amen? Okay. And of course, trusting in God. And I'm lingering on this because this is stuff that we're supposed to know and believe and to really hold dear to us. The trusting in God. How many of you look at trusting in God like it was really a stress reliever? Because if we're not using God, which he says to us basically, you can't carry the weight. You can't carry that. That is my job. And so trusting in God really, to me, means that it's a stress reliever, and it should be. We shouldn't be stressed out in here. We shouldn't be thinking about all kind of bills right about now. Okay? All right. Now let's proceed. Some of you may remember images like this, and this was a product called Ultra Sheen. And this was a very popular product. Now there is a inventor. His name was Garrett Morgan. He was an African American inventor, and he's been credited with developing the first chemical relaxer, Garrett Morgan. But it wasn't until Mr. George Johnson, who was a Chicago chemist, invented the use of lye. You've heard of lye? The other name for lye is sodium hydroxide. And that lye will take your kinky, curly hair and it will straighten it out. Yes, when it's applied. But we're going to find out that there's some danger with that. As a matter of fact, I haven't had that process done, but anybody who's brave enough to raise their hand to tell me that they remember having their scalp burned by using that lye before. And when you cry to your auntie, to your grandma, to your mother, they said, "Come on, you're grown up now. You're a big girl now. Come on, you can handle this." Yeah, we're soon done. But what has happened is that lye was opening up the pores. It was opening up the membranes, and it was allowing the bad stuff to really get in. And this scalp is really interesting because there's so much blood circulation to the scalp. If you ever remember anybody, including yourself, who ever got cut on your scalp, it bleeds a lot. So there's a lot of blood flow here. So whatever can get inside this scalp from here can get all through your body. Okay? So ultrasheen was a big deal back in the 1950s and 60s. But by then, you see the hairstyles that these ladies wanted. They wanted to look very European. And it wasn't that they just wanted to look white or to look like that. Our society was denigrating our skin, and it was saying, "Oh, we don't want any of that kinky hair over here," you know. So it was a pressure that our black women had to look a certain way because they wanted to be presentable. They didn't want people to say, "Where's she from? She from some country part in Jamaica?" No, so we wanted to look sophisticated. You know, you might have to be on television or whatever. So hair has taken on this very peculiar role, and I want to mess with your head a little bit here. I want to ask you. It's not a trick question. Don't answer it. Which looks better to you? But you don't have to. You don't have to answer. But you and I may have our own personal thoughts about whether a woman should present herself as bald or whether she should use some hair on her head. But you see the kind of complexity that women are having to deal with. Now she has a condition that is known as alopecia, and with alopecia, it may mean that her body is fighting against itself in some kind of way where the hair is not capable of growing. But personally, I would like to see our women be comfortable with whatever they do. I'm not going to give any do's or don'ts. But I think at first when there was a program, must have been a Grammy program just a month ago or so. And there was a very popular lady who was in a movie that came from the UK. It was called Wicked. And she won an award, and she came out the same way without any hair. And at first it kind of struck me because it didn't present the image that I wanted to see. But then I had to realize that wasn't my decision. But you ladies have some big decisions to make on a regular basis about beauty. Hair has been said has been a source of style and creativity and pride, but it has also been the object of pain, of insult, and discrimination. So we're going to go one step further now. Now, I have been concerned over the years about the health of our African American women. And I have been disturbed to know that if one of my black female women are diagnosed with breast cancer, that she has a 40% higher chance of dying from the disease than her white counterpart. 40% is a very high number. That shouldn't be. Why is that? The second thing that troubled me was that under the age of 40, our black women are developing breast cancer faster than any other group. That really troubled me. And so I had to think to myself, well, why is that? Is there something inferior? Do we have some kind of genetic problem which is not allowing us to get past this issue? And that's when I started to do a little research. And the research may have been intuitive to you, but I had to look into the paperwork and see, well, what research has actually been done. And so the question came about, does the early and frequent use of chemical relaxers and straighteners by adolescents increase their risk of developing breast cancer under the age of 40? I had to think to myself, I've seen too many young girls just around 30, 28, 29, 30, developing breast cancer and having to have a bilateral mastectomy. They didn't have to, but the doctors apparently recommended that you have your breast removed. They're just 30 years of age. What could be going on here? Until I found out that that ritual of starting to chemically straighten hair started about maybe 10, 11, 12. So if that process continues for the next 10, 20 years, they could be very, very primed to have a problem with their breasts. No question about it. So in a quest to try to be beautiful, mothers were not trying to intentionally harm their daughters. They just wanted to give them the best opportunities. Sweetheart, if you get your hair done, you're going to get a good boyfriend who can look after you. You'll get a good job. You'll get, more money. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the conversations would have been like. But also just for the ease, I'm here talking like I know so much about hair. I have a daughter, and I used to comb her hair, but that's about the extent of it. But I suppose being able to comb the hair, without fighting, was an important object as well. So there I was at the University of Florida, just up to last year, having to do my research presentation, and this was the subject that I chose: the cancer threats of beauty and hair products. So I did a 25-page paper on this, and I really feel like I understand it. Now, when you look at this slide, on the inside, there are a lot of these chemicals that I was telling you about called the endocrine disruptors. But just to make it more simple for you, even if you just looked at the outside, that's a food preservatives carry certain harmful chemicals. The personal care products carry issues, plastics, and certain manufactured resins, food packaging. Now, you could actually have at your home cornflakes. Do you know that the packaging that they put the cornflakes in could be a problem? The lining in your canned goods could be a problem. These are things not only could be a problem, could be contributing to cancer. Yes. So we at least have to be more aware of what it is that we're using. The pesticides, the herbicides, the fungicides, the things that you would use to kill whatever you may have growing in the garden. You want to get rid of those bugs. You want to get rid of those weeds, may have potential problems because those items are designed. They were designed to kill those rodents, to kill those roaches, to kill their nervous system. Little did they know that killing their nervous system, and our nervous system is rather similar. We have very similar function, so it's just a slow death that's going on. So one of the things that shocked me was Parkinson's disease. You've heard of Parkinson's disease? People they have difficulty with movement. If they're sitting down, they can't get up, and once they start moving, they can't stop. And they may or may not have a tremor. And do you know that they have discovered that the use of pesticides, say on a golf course, some of you men know and have friends, and you may be out there yourself on a golf course, and how beautiful that golf course is, isn't it? Nice and green. Well, how did it become so green? Because they use a lot of pesticides and herbicides. And those very same chemicals are responsible for why the men who work on those fields, they have higher levels of cancer. Yeah. So we have to become more familiar with the labels of what we're using. Some of the solvents that you use to clean around the house, you have to be very suspicious about them. And even some of the medications, some of the time-release medicines may be doing us harm. And probably the biggest concern that I could see that affects all of us is that we're not being protected by the government agencies as much as we should be. And that is going to get worse because this new administration has already stopped regulating certain harmful chemicals. One, for example, within a week of the new administration, they allowed a certain dry cleaning compound to no longer be regarded as anything dangerous. And they've closed down lots of places around the country because of dry cleaning solutions that got into the water. So up in Sanford, right here, there's a military camp called Camp Lejeune where some of this got into the water, and the men, 70 men developed breast cancer. 70 men developed breast cancer. Okay? So we know that there's a chemical component. We spent a lot of time talking about family history. But what do families do? Families that eat together, they live together, they do a lot of things together. That may be more of a source of issue than it actually traveling in the genes. That we as family, we do like families do. So anyway, unfortunately, there's a whole host of chemicals that you have to pay attention to. When you pick up something and you're saying, but stop, I don't recognize this, I don't recognize that. You may have to take a little extra time, but I'm going to give you some information in the end that may help you. So many of us are using what I call personal care products. You know, that could be the soaps or the lotions or the shampoos, and once again, we're assuming that they're safe because I bought it at Walmart. What do you mean? I went to Sally's. I went to the beauty shop. Don't tell me it's not safe. And come to find out that they have compounds that are dangerous. And one of the shocks is that they don't always give us that information of what's really in it or what's not in it. They have done studies where independent scientists found many more chemicals inside these products, but were not listed on the box. So many of these places do not have your interest at heart. You could think that it's good. Now, I'm not bad-mouthing Chamberlain's or some of the more natural options and choices that we do have. But we're going to have to be more deliberate about the decisions that we make about what are we using. Because even some of the hand sanitizers, there's an ingredient called triclosan, which is rather dangerous. So be very cautious about what you are using. I'm talking about things like Head and Shoulders even. Yes, there are certain compounds, but I'm going to give you some clues in the end. Yeah, well, you know, that's why I told you I'm backing off. I'm backing off on that stuff because those things are not necessarily safe. You see, what is happening is that if we have an excessive burden of chemicals in our bodies, one day the camel's going to fall down. I mean, that might be the day that your immune system drops because you just have too much stuff inside your body. If I wanted to shock you, and I'm going to shock you right now, I'm going to tell you the truth. The science that I'm looking at tells me that every baby that is born today has at least 300 chemicals on the first day of life that don't belong in a baby's body. They did the study with 10 Caucasian babies. Then they followed with 10 African American. They did Latino. They did Asian children as well. All toxic. Which means that mother was toxic. Mother was toxic. Okay, so all of the different things that you think, you use, but you were able to wash it off and it's all gone. Not true. And that placenta didn't really protect that baby. So we're all born with poisons. And as years go on, it just gets worse and worse. So, Lord, you got to come soon because we won't stand a chance. You've been hearing a lot about ultra-processed foods. Yes. And so this harkens back to how important it is to enjoy your fruits and your vegetables and the cassava and the things that grow as a root. By the way, we're not getting enough minerals in our bodies. I would rather tell you to make sure that you're getting proper minerals than to tell you to drink alkaline water. Okay? We need minerals. That's a reserve that really protects us. I'll save some of that for another day. Okay, so I'm going to share with you why I really took an interest in these endocrine disrupting chemicals, because this is how much damage it is doing. You can see that little figure, it's a child. And these chemicals These endocrine disruptors have been associated with children coming out not so bright anymore. Lots of them having hyperactivity, can't sit still, and their learning capacities are dropping. There's much more asthma these days. Even children are suffering from obesity and also early puberty. Quick study: there were some children that were under the age of 10, maybe 9, 8, 7, and they were growing pubic hairs. They were having little breast buds, and the doctor said, I'm going to have to send you to the endocrinologist, and the endocrinologist asked the parents to bring in everything that they're using for the child, on the child. And they found these harmful chemicals that were causing the little girls to be precocious. They were developing parts of their bodies much too early, and that is associated with developing cancer as a grown-up. So with your children or your grandchildren, you have to look and to really see what are you plastering on that little child, because these things could have significant impact. When you look at the mother, the woman in this picture, you see breast cancer, you see thyroid disease, diabetes, once again obesity, and also infertility, low birth weight babies, and developmental dysfunction. In other words, these same endocrine disruptors are disrupting the health, and just anything that could contribute to you getting diabetes, bad news. You don't want that. Anything that could cause you to gain weight. There's a lot of us who have gained weight, and it's not because we're necessarily lazy or just totally inactive, but when some of these compounds get inside your body, they're actually known as obesogens. They're making us heavy, you see. And my shock also is that these same kinds of chemicals are contributing to prostate cancer. And right now, I have a host of my friends, under 70, over 70, but way too many of them with prostate cancer. Way too many. And these kind of chemicals also contribute. Of course, we know that having too much of a fatty diet is also bad for a man's prostate as well. Fatty foods, that particularly if they're processed and saturated. Now, we're not talking about some of the avocado oils or some of the good oils. But the point is that these endocrine disruptors are disrupting for all of us. And these things need to be taken out of the marketplace and not making us sick. So one of the questions that I had to solve was why? Why are we suffering? Why are women suffering breast and uterine cancer? And as you may know, and I'm going to show it to you, that breast cancer is not uncommon anymore. What you can see here is that it is the non-Hispanic Black that has the highest mortality rate. That's the highest peak. The lowest peak is the Asian, the Pacific Islanders. Hispanic is the last one on that right side. So we are subject to dying more from this problem. And lest you forget, breast cancer is big in the Americas. It's actually lower in Africa. It's lower in Australia. And one of the surprising things that I found out a few years ago was breast cancer is not very common in Haiti. And that could be because there is a benefit to breastfeeding. When there's not much food around, that may be the only choice. But by breastfeeding, you are emptying out the breast of certain toxins and poisons that would kind of build up, because that is fatty tissue. But breast cancer is a problem around the world. And since we're talking about that, we're going to have to find better ways of screening for that at younger ages. Right now, if I'm not mistaken, the age that mammography would be offered to you would probably be 40. I don't think it should be less than that because I'm telling you that African American women are developing breast cancer under the age of 40 more rapidly than any other group. So something has to change there. We're going to have to be able to screen a little bit better. Now, there was a large study that was done. It was called the sister study. You had to have a sister that had cancer. And they used 47,000 participants. And they studied what would happen if they started using chemical straighteners between the ages of 10 to 13. That's a lot of women, 47,000. And the study found good evidence that there was an increased risk of premenopausal breast cancer. That means that they may very well have been able to develop breast cancer in their 50s or their 40s or possibly in their 30s if they started as an adolescent. So it was more than double the risk compared to those who had never used them. And the title of that study was The Adolescent Use of Hair Dyes, Straighteners, and Perms in Relation to Breast Cancer Risk. And this study was done in 2021. So we're not guessing about this. You may have thought the same, but there's now evidence that there's a problem. And I'm glad that you women have a lot more options now. Am I right? That we're not using chemical relaxers and straighteners like was done in the past. And without getting into sensitive issues like weaves or wigs, I'm just happy that there are some other alternatives. And I'm not going to mess with anybody about any weaves or any wigs. I just want to make sure that your scalp is getting the proper oxygen. So don't always keep something tying up your head. Even your scalp needs to breathe. Does that look familiar to anybody? Yeah, so one of the shame is that the way that they advertised these young girls years ago, and this was Dark and Lovely, Just for Me, Kids Organics. These are a few of the popular hair relaxer brands that you may remember from childhood. And it was picture day was coming up, Easter Sunday was coming up, and so we're going to have a program at the church, so we're going to get your hair done. And indeed, our little girls did look lovely, but at what expense? At what expense? And so, we started with the theme of drop dead gorgeous. And, we all want to be drop dead gorgeous, but we really don't want to be drop dead. Okay? All right. So hair relaxers marketed to children in the United States contain the highest level of 5 of the chemicals that are prohibited in the European Union. I cannot really understand how they could do this to us, but I'm going to repeat that one more time. Hair relaxers that are marketed to children in the United States contain the highest levels of these dangerous chemicals that are prohibited in places in Europe. So it almost could seem like a form of a conspiracy to get our people sick so we could turn around and have to go and use the medical system. And it is to that extent that we have to be more knowledgeable, we have to trust in the Lord and do the best that we can. I don't want anybody to leave out of this discussion and say, oh, it's just too much stuff. Everything is going to get me sick. Everything is going to cause me cancer, so I don't care. No, that's not the point. But if you do know better, then do better. Do the best that you can do is all that we can do. We are here on planet Earth, and sometimes it's not a happy place. But I'm happy for each woman in here that has been able to enjoy your state of health in spite of all of the poisons that are surrounding us. It's like they're attacking us at every turn. So praise the Lord that some of us are able to withstand, and it's only the mercies of God that brings us through. Now, some of the personal care products that contain different estrogens, or what they call xenoestrogens, can also increase the breast cancer risk. So I didn't mention this before, but African American women, they spend a lot of money on hair stuff. And if we had been smart, we would have bought ourselves a little hair salon somewhere, hair products, okay, little Sally's. Let's all invest because women will spend that money. Now, the Latino women, they will spend more money for the cosmetics, you know, and on the same note, I will tell you something that has affected me, and maybe it has affected you. But how many of us like to smell good? Okay, all right. And there are many products that have within them, when you look at the ingredient, it only says fragrance. Fragrance. Well, what is fragrance? What's in it when they say fragrance? You don't know, and I don't know, but everything that I'm reading tells me it ain't good. So it may be better for us to use some of the essential oils, which are a little bit safer. But when it says fragrance, and how many of you during Christmas time get a lot of perfumes? Oh boy, I can't wait to get some cologne and some perfume. But little did you know that as you were slapping it on or spraying it on, that you could be spraying on things that may not necessarily be safe for you. So even something as simple as that. And they meant well. Your girlfriend meant well when she gave you that fragrance. But even that has to be taken under some consideration. Please be careful with our children. That's just it just jumps out at me. Don't put too much stuff on a child if you don't know what you're putting on there. Really. Now, let's go to this uterus for a second. And let's recognize that our women have more fibroids than any other group of women. How many of you have a friend that have had fibroids or maybe had to have surgery because of fibroids? That is a direct indication that too much estrogen got into their bodies, because that's what it is. You see these little growths. Let me make it a little bit more plain for you to see, and I'll show you another one. But these are fibroids, and this has been a source of concern for a lot of women, because if you have too big of a fibroid, then doctor may say, well, maybe we should do a hysterectomy. We're going to have to take out your uterus. And so some unnecessary surgeries may have been done because a woman had these fibroids. But this is an indication that there was a hormonal imbalance that perhaps you may have been able to control if you avoided certain things, if you knew what to do. But this is a big issue for a lot of our women. And this is clearly stating that Black women are 3 times more likely than women of other races to develop fibroids. This should be a good indication to really analyze, what are you putting on your bodies? And you know what? For those women that are still working, by the time you take a shower, by the time you put on your creams and your lotions and your potions, you put on about 125 different chemicals on your body. Just before you're leaving to go out to work, looking good and smelling fantastic. Yes. So it's a big deal, and I would analyze what you're using. But you know, the habits that we have, they're hard to break. When you go to wherever you go to get your stuff, you want to get your stuff. You don't want to have to call Amazon or eBay and do all kind of stuff to get new stuff, which might even be more expensive. No, so sometimes the habits are hard to break, but I'm telling you here and now that if you don't break them, they're going to break you. Oh yeah, our lovely little girls. And these boxes were made to be so attractive. There was a lot of targeting of our community. Okay, it wasn't by chance. So when you're in the inner cities, these are the kind of things that they really push on, and they denigrate us. They don't want you to have any dark skin. They don't want you to have any kind of natural hair. And so they push these kinds of things which look safe. And once again, we trust that the government is doing some good things for us. There was a great article in the New York Times that was discussing this issue, and it was by a professor who was at Harvard University, and she remembered being 8 years of age and having her hair feel like it was on fire. This also happened to Oprah. Oprah, back in 1977, went to one of these salons. She got chemical relaxation and straighteners, and she recalls having clumps of her hair that were falling out. This was back in 1977. She had just gotten a relaxation. So these were things that were inadvertently could damage our scalp, damage our hair, and God forbid that you say, well, let me leave this on a little bit longer. They said just keep it on for 30 minutes. I'm going to keep it on for 60 because maybe it will double straighten the hair. Oh yeah, and it could create long-term concerns for us. So we were talking about the breast, but use of hair straighteners and other hair products also started to show issues with the uterus. And the women who were having uterine problems, they were getting it after menopause. Older, you had to be a little bit older to get that. Well, they studied 33,000 women. It was called the sister study, ages 35 to 74, and they found that women who frequently use straighteners, and they defined that as at least 4 times a year, they were 2.5 times increased chance of developing uterine cancer. And if you think that this is just a joke, you'll know that there are now law firms that will take your case. If you develop or have a friend or a family member who develop uterine cancer, they will now take your case, and there may be some kind of a settlement. I talked to a patient / friend who was recently diagnosed with endometrial cancer or uterine cancer, and she had to, of course, have a hysterectomy. And we were just talking, and she said, when I was younger, I was a cosmetologist. I was working with a lot of these chemicals. And truth be told, I have about 3 or 4 cosmetology friends, beauty salon people. You know where they are now? They're dead. Okay, because they probably didn't have ventilation. They may not have been using gloves. And so a lot of these things were getting into their bodies. And my friend Randy is just gone. I miss my barber. When you have a good barber, it's a good friend. Because when anybody starts working on your head, then you start talking, you start confessing, And so I miss my friend. But yeah, so this is a real thing. There are law firms that will take a case. So this has also gotten into what they call the environmental injustice of beauty. And I made allusion to it before, is that Black women are targeted, and so you have to resist that. And a few months back, my sister and I were talking about the concept of beauty from the inside out. Beauty from the inside out. We have to first believe that we are beautiful. And what is it that makes us beautiful? I'm just asking a question for you to think it through. Is this something that comes from the inside out? Or is it something that you have to put on that makes you beautiful? Okay, it's just a question. But the depth of that question should take us to a spiritual place, and we have to have a value in who we are. But I have another confession to make, and that is that our men, over the years, I have observed myself and I have observed other men having conversations about women. And so here might be a conversation, Rich. They'll say, oh, did you see that gorgeous girl? Which one? Oh, you mean the light-skinned one with the long hair? And so even our men have been infected by this Eurocentric push to beauty. And that's why it's so nice to see a beauty pageant and you're looking hard to see, well, is there one of us in there? Because they all look like clones. They all look identical, But anyway, This environmental injustice of beauty is a concept that simply means that we should not be targeted and marketed to in any aggressive way, especially if these products are not safe. All right, so now you've been dying to ask me this question, and so I'm going to answer it for you. The question then would be, well, what beauty and hair supply products can I trust, right? Okay. So because I don't have any long list, I want you to remember these names, and I'm going to make some of this information available to your health and temperance department. But I want you to write down Campaign for Safe Cosmetics, because what I found out was that there are a group of African American women scientists who have been concerned about breast cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, and your health overall. And they want you to be able to use and to find safe products. So when you look up Campaign for Safe Cosmetics, you will see a host of products that were manufactured by African American companies, but they may not have the same marketing that you would find in Walmarts and some of the other places. And likewise, if you look into the Breast Cancer Prevention Partners, this is one of the most progressive groups that study breast cancer, but they're telling you the truth about how chemicals can find their way into our bodies and be responsible for some of these issues. Over here, you see this is another term that you may want to write down: the Non-Toxic Black Beauty Project. And you would be shocked to know how many safe products. Well, you just have to look for them. You have to look for them to see where they are. But the Non-Toxic Black Beauty Project, if you put that into your Google, you will start getting all the information. The other two, very important: Campaign for Safe Cosmetics, as well as the Breast Cancer Prevention Partners. Yes, the Non-Toxic Black Beauty Project. And that's also associated with the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics. Now, not to leave anything out, I would remind you that there are certain foods that have been recognized to help with giving you some long, healthy hair. And you'll see the list that includes eggs, if you can afford them, green peas, green tea, cottage cheese, oatmeal, walnuts, kidney beans, spinach, sunflower seeds, broccoli, to name a few. Some of you who may not want to rely on that will look for a vitamin that will have supplementation for hair, nail, and skin. And there will be an assortment of vitamins like biotin. There'll be some collagen, but you can usually find something good. And I have been impressed with some of the commercials. I don't know for sure, but this Nutrafol seems like it's been doing some miraculous things for some of the folk on TV. It could be a scam, I don't know, but it appears that's been helping a lot of people. So for some of us who really just want to know that you're doing the best that you can for your hair, find out about the foods that would be of value for you. Coming to a conclusion here, I would also tell you to be careful of some of the canned foods and the canned drinks, because there's a lining inside the cans and it has something called BPA, bisphenol A. And also, when you went to the Cheesecake Factory or wherever and they gave you a receipt, little did you know that receipt has something on the paper that has this BPA, and it can become absorbed in your body. So when they ask you, do you want your receipt? If it's at all possible, say, no, you can keep the receipt. Just say, give me a text or give me an email. But that paper, as simple as you would take it, over the years, could be problematic for you. So you want to look for BPA-free products. I just glossed over the plastic bottles that it's nice to have water. Don't get me wrong, and it's nice to have that convenience. But if you're not getting the right grade of plastic, which should be a more hard, very durable sort of a plastic, then stick with the glass and the stainless steel. Look out for what they would call parabens. Parabens come in a lot of the cosmetics and personal care products, even some of the medications. Phthalates, P-H-L-H-A-L-A-T-E-S, phthalates. They're found in personal care products, fragrance, and certain cleaning supplies. So let me tell you about this. It's very important. Can you imagine a pregnant woman who is carrying a little boy? You with me? It's an unborn little boy in her body, and she goes out to get her nails done. And she's being exposed to phthalates. Those phthalates can actually drop the level of her unborn son's testosterone level, unbeknownst to them. And that little boy, when he comes out, daddy wants to throw him a football, and he wants to play with a Barbie doll. So right from in the womb, things that mother is exposed to is already changing the hormonal balance in her unborn son. And when I found this out, as I found out that there are such a thing as gay animals, not that God created any gay animals, but Lake Apopka was the site of a huge chemical dumping of wrong chemicals. And animals around the lake were affected. The alligators came out with smaller penises. They had to bring in new alligators just for procreation. I couldn't believe this. But there were scientists from my school, University of Florida, that investigated this. So the take-home lesson is that during the process of pregnancy, that woman who dares to want to carry a baby needs to be crystal clean. She needs to really be detoxed and avoiding every and any kind of things that could injure her baby, because you would want that during pregnancy, you want everything to be perfect, don't you? You want every month of development of the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, you want everything to be perfect. But then if you have chemicals that are causing confusion, then what you gonna get? And then though, if you're transgender or you're homosexual these days, they almost want it's a dangerous life. Our government is not protecting you. And they could be subject to not only suicide, but homicide. These are serious matters. So when I looked at it from a scientific point of view, I'm just giving my own opinion here, I don't judge anybody anymore, okay? And I'm thankful that I'm not a judge. God is the judge. He knows where we come from, what kind of circumstances we come out of. So don't you dare look at somebody and say, what's wrong with you? Rather, what happened to you? What happened? I wonder what happened to so-and-so that could have caused such a problem. So we can't be judgmental. And especially when I see, I'm still a basketball fanatic, Magic Johnson, big man, he's a man's man. And he had a son. By birth, it was a male. But when you look at the boy now, he's transitioned to being a female. And I can bet that he had a sit-down conversation with his son, and he says, son, you can't do this. You cannot choose to be a woman. But it was too late. Not getting the imprint of that testosterone early, apparently, may have injured his capacity to it wasn't a choice, is what I'm trying to say. This is just biology. Okay, yes, but we know that even from the days of Lot, we know that there have been some, funny stuff going on. But I'm telling you, I'm a man of 70. 30 or 40 years ago, this was not the case. You might have one or two gay guys in the closet, one or two. Now the closet is full up with that. So there's something in the water. There's something going on in our environment. Watch out for your personal care products, even in your toothpaste and the bar soap, even what you think of as antibacterial soaps, perfumes for sure. And I think I will remind you, okay, so we talked about drinking less canned beverages, eating less packaged foods. You know what I stopped using, but I haven't taken it out of the house yet? Don't stone me, because I'm just a messenger. But do you know that that microwave is not safe? You could actually put good food inside that microwave, but the kinds of electrical things that happen in order for that to heat up the food, it's actually taking away the vitality out of the food. And so you could better warm things up the old-fashioned way. You remember when we didn't have microwave? Yeah. That turns out to have been a better way to just warm it up that old-fashioned way. But anyway, don't be mad at me. Okay, all right. Let's see. In certain medicines that have the enteric coating or the time release may not be so safe for you. So there's a list of different items that we use that you just really need to take a good look at. Another shameful thing are the toys that we give to our children. A lot of them are plastic. So you can see the children sucking on toys and not realizing that those things also can affect their development. So there's so much to be concerned about. Don't get confused. Don't say to yourself, it's too much, I can't do it. You just do a little bit more every day. Do a little better. Now, I don't know how many of us are ever on planet Earth going to reach a state of perfection. No, don't throw me out of the church. So what is the answer to that? The answer is do the best that you can do. Do the best that you can do and leave it there. All right. So here's my last slide. And this last slide is basically, once again, a kind of a review of what we can do. Eat more organic foods. Oh, but Doc, it's so expensive. Is it worth the price to look after yourself, to give your body the best that you can possibly afford? I would say do the best you can. Eat foods that are as in the most natural way that you can get them. Even if you have to pay a few more pennies for it, it will be better for you. This food industry is no friend to you. They know exactly what you like. They know how you like your foods to crunch. They know what kind of seasonings, how to put together fats, sugars, and proteins to make you want to go back and get it. And you're trying to figure out why do I like this so much? Oh yeah, they got your number. You want to store your food in glass or stainless steel containers. So the Tupperware years are gone. Okay? The plastics is a problem. It's out in the oceans. They're talking about microplastics that may be in our bodies, in our brain. So you want to try to avoid plastic where you can. Get yourself a good filter. Use natural skin care and as close to natural cleaning products as you can. Avoid creams and cosmetics that contain, ingredients that could be estrogenic. It's too much hormones, and then that's going to create problems. So parabens, watch out for that. The nail polish and the nail polish removers, you be careful. Use naturally based fragrances like essential oils. Yes, we want you to smell good, but we don't want you to be drop dead smelling good, okay? And you want to use chemical-free soaps and toothpaste.